Some lawmakers who work with California Senator Dianne Feinstein, they are worried that she's now mentally unfit to serve. They cite recent conversations with the 88-year-old senator. According to our partners at the San Francisco Chronicle, a Democratic lawmaker who didn't want to be identified told them the two were supposed to have a policy discussion, but instead, the lawmaker said they had to reintroduce themselves to Feinstein several times. They said rather than talk policy, the senator repeated the same small talk questions, like asking what mattered to voters in their district. The lawmaker said this prompted them to speak with colleagues to see if they could somehow persuade her to retire. Feinstein's term does run through the end of 2024. Joining us now is Tal Kopan. That's one of the reporters who contributed to this story. Tal, good morning. Thanks so much for being here.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Of course, and as we mentioned, of course, colleagues are now worried about her ability to serve. But talk about the process to uncover these claims. Like, talk about some of the behind-the-scenes work that you guys did for this article.
Sure. I mean, I think it's important to note that none of the conversations I had were easy. In fact, every single one of them that I had from her colleagues, her former staff, the lawmakers, they were incredibly painful. I mean, she's very much respected and revered in Washington and in California, and for good reason. She has a completely historic and storied career. But there's this real level of concern, both for the people of California to be adequately represented, and for her own sake. No one sort of wants her career to kind of end this way. They believe she deserves more dignity than this, and so it's a really complex issue. But these concerns have existed for several years, but the level of detail that when I started to have these conversations, the level of detail about the extent of the issue, I think was really eye-opening, and we felt that it was too important to not report to her constituents and the people of California.
We want to get to the statement. The senator's office releasing a statement to KCRA saying, quote, "I remain committed to do what I said when I was reelected in 2018, fight for Californians, especially on the economy and the key issues for California of water and fire. While I've focused for much of the past year on my husband's health and ultimate passing, I've remained committed to achieving results, and I put my record up against anyone." So, Tal, I want to ask you this question. I mean, could this be stress related? I mean, as she mentioned, her husband just recently passed. Could it just be something that's not necessarily related to declining mental health?
Our reporting doesn't indicate that. Certainly, we absolutely recognize the, terrible grief and sadness that she's experienced from the passing of her husband and his long illness. We're very much aware of that, and you can't say with any certainty that it did not contribute to what we experienced. But our reporting really indicated that this is not a problem isolated to what she was experiencing with her husband. This has been getting progressively worse for many years. Those who observe her close do not attribute it to sort of a new episode related to the stress and grieving. Like I said, certainly it could be a contributing factor, but our reporting really indicates that it predates and is separate from those admittedly tragic and painful experiences that she has gone through the last year.
So, Tal, we have just a few more seconds here, but I really want to talk to what has to happen. You talk about lawmakers concerned about her ability, but, could she be removed from office barring her resignation? Like, take me through that process.
The short answer is not really. I mean, technically, there is a procedure to expel someone from the Senate by a vote of their peers. I would say it's virtually impossible that would be deployed here. Historically, it's pretty much just been used to expel traitors, like after the Civil War. It's really not something I would see the Senate doing. It's incredibly public and embarrassing. It's not realistic. So realistically, no. It's sort of up to her. There's discussions among her colleagues about whether anyone could possibly convince her to retire or step aside. Of course, part of why she has had this historic career has been ignoring naysayers when she was a groundbreaking woman politician. And she still has that sort of streak of stubbornness and taking her own counsel, which only makes it all the more difficult. And she doesn't seem to recognize her own lapses in memory a lot of the time. So short of her deciding to step aside, there's really not much that would take her out of her term, which, as you said, runs through the end of 2024.
Tal Koppen, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Something we will definitely continue to follow here at KCRA, and we know you guys will be following it at the San Francisco Chronicle as well.
Yes, thank you.